Hi folks, HR Funk here. Welcome to part 2 of my analysis on traditional handgun shooting stances, specifically the Weaver stance and the Isosceles stance. And also in this video, I'm taking a look at grips on handguns and how they might influence time to first shot on target, as well as follow-up shots that might be necessary in a defensive engagement. If you didn't see part 1 of this video, I would strongly encourage you to go back and watch part 1, because otherwise I'm afraid you're going to be completely lost as we get into this segment where I continue that analysis with my trip to the range. Folks, at this point I'm back from the range and I have some good news and some bad news regarding what you're about to see. First, the good news. Between the last segment and this one, as you might notice, I was able to get my hair cut. This is thanks to my lovely wife, because my barber recently moved away and my hair was getting so long and outrageous, I absolutely couldn't stand it. That's it for the good news. Now for the bad news. When I got to the range, I had a number of technical difficulties that are going to change the way I'm going to present the information in this video from what I originally intended to what you're about to see. And I think I still have enough good footage and useful information for those of you that are interested in this discussion of stances and grips and so forth to be able to take something useful away from the video, but it's just not going to be quite what I was originally going to present, and you'll see some of the things in the course of the range footage that I'm going to show you that is just not quite the same as you usually see in my videos. So when I got to the range, what I wanted to look at is if there was any significant advantage when it came to assuming either the Weaver stance or my modified Isosceles stance in terms of time to assume that position as I'm presenting the pistol and getting my first shot on target, and also any difference in accuracy from either one of those two positions. And also, for my own purposes, I wanted to add in the thumb over thumb or traditional grip that I demonstrated earlier to see if I was going to have any difference in time or accuracy when shooting with that particular grip as opposed to the thumb's forward grip that I've been using for several years now. And I wanted to check this across multiple firearms platforms. So I took 3 handguns with me, and the ones that you're going to see are my 1911 PD that you saw earlier in the video. For Revolver, I took my Model 19 Carry Comp 357 Magnum. And for my Poly Striker pistol, I took my Steyr M9A2MF. And with each one of these, I started out with the pistol in the holster, and I was going to originally draw from concealment. I had my vest on from earlier in the video, but I changed my mind since I'm trying to isolate the effect of the stances and eventually the grip on my shooting when it comes to putting bullets on target. I didn't want to have a situation where one time I would go to access my handgun and potentially get my hands somewhat caught up in my vest and have a slower time in the presentation than the next time when I got a clean grasp on the handgun and presented it faster just due to the vest. So as you'll see in the video, I'm not wearing a vest, I'm not drawing from concealment, but I am drawing for each one of these shots. The first time through with each handgun, I'm using my shot timer, and on a signal to fire, I'm assuming the Weaver stance and firing 1 shot on target from that stance and measuring the time that it takes from the signal to fire until I have that shot on target, and also of course looking at the accuracy to see how that looks. The second time with the same handgun, I'm assuming my modified Isosceles stance using the thumb's forward grip, and again looking at the time that it takes to get that first shot on target and also the accuracy. The last time through, also still using the modified Isosceles, I'm coming up and using the thumb over thumb or traditional grip to see once again if there's any difference in the time it takes to get my first shot on target and to see how the accuracy looks. So the first time through, you'll see 1 shot fired with each handgun. Now it's important to remember I'm comparing stances and grips. I'm not comparing handgun to handgun. So we're not really looking at the times and accuracy from the Steyr M9 as opposed to the 1911 as opposed to the Model 19 Carry Comp. We're looking at the performance from stance to stance and grip to grip. The second time through with each handgun, I'm assuming the exact same 3 stances and the exact same grips again, but this time I'm firing 5 shots in a row, and all the shooting in the video is done from a distance of 5 yards. because now, along with the time and accuracy of the initial presentation, I want to look at the recoil mitigation and also see if I'm getting faster shots or faster times shot to shot with any of these stances, indicating they are giving better recoil control and helping with that faster follow-up shot, or if I'm not seeing that, and if so, to what degree I'm seeing it. Also, again, the third time through with each one is going to be from the modified isosceles using the thumb over thumb traditional grip to again see if I'm getting any greater time or lesser time when shooting that way, and also any greater or lesser accuracy. So I kicked things off with the 1911, and as you'll see, I started with it in the holster, and on the signal to fire, the first time I assume the Weaver stance with a thumbs forward grip and fire one shot on target. Then I reholstered the pistol, and on the second signal to fire, I'll draw and assume a modified isosceles stance, and again fire one shot on the target. And the last time I'll draw, assume a modified isosceles stance with the thumb over thumb grip, and fire one shot in the target. And then we'll take a look at the target and also the times for delivering each one of those shots to the target. And here is our 1911 target, and I've marked those 3 shots from the single shot drills with the black stickers. And this is the one shot from our Weaver stance, this is the one shot from the modified isosceles, and this is the one shot with the modified isosceles using the thumb over thumb grip. And as you can see, when it comes to accuracy, there was virtually no difference with any of those 3 shots. All of them are a little bit low, but they're consistently low. So for whatever reason, I was just shooting the 1911 a little bit low. I don't think this really is any indication of a deficiency with any of the stances or grips or anything else. In fact, I think in terms of accuracy and shot placement, this drill was a draw. When we look at the times from the signal to fire till the first shot reached the target, the Weaver stance was the slowest, not surprisingly, since it takes a little bit longer and a little bit more movement to get into that position before I can fire a shot. It came in at 2.31 seconds, 2.31 seconds from the signal to fire until I had fired that shot on target. The modified isosceles was the fastest, again, not surprisingly, since it takes the least amount of movement to get into that position. And it had a time of 1.96 seconds from the signal to fire until the first shot was on target. And the thumb over thumb modified isosceles was just slightly slower with a time of 2.00, so an even 2 seconds for the modified isosceles using the thumb over thumb. And truthfully, I don't think there's any real difference in the time from one grip to the other getting this shot on target. I think that's just the difference in time from one presentation to the next. So with the single shot drill, I think this was really a draw. Now the time from the slowest shot being the Weaver stance to the fastest shot being the modified isosceles using the thumbs forward grip was 25/100ths of a second, 0.25 seconds. So if that's significant for you, then the modified isosceles was definitely the fastest. I think for most shooters in most circumstances, that's not going to be that big of a difference. Next, still using the 1911, I started once again with the pistol in the holster. This time on the signal to fire, I fired 5 shots in a row. And first off again, I'm shooting from the Weaver stance. Second time through, shooting from the modified isosceles with the thumbs forward. And the last time through, I'm shooting from the modified isosceles with the thumb over thumb grip. Let's take a look at how this went. And here's the target once again with those 5 shots fired from the Weaver stance marked with the green stickers. And I think the group looks pretty good. Everything is a heart or a lung shot that I fired in that particular group. The time was 4.89 seconds. Let's see now how that compares to the second group fired from the modified isosceles stance. So here are the 5 shots fired from that modified isosceles position using the thumb's forward grip, and I marked them with the red stickers. And the first thing you'll notice is they are significantly tighter, or the overall group, maybe I should say, is significantly smaller than the shots that I fired from the Weaver position. Now they're still all heart and lung shots, so in terms of effectiveness, I don't know that they would necessarily be more effective than the shots fired from the Weaver position, but you can see that they are a tighter group. Probably more significant is the fact that the tighter group fired from that modified isosceles position was achieved in a time of 4.16 seconds, 4.16 seconds. So almost 3/4 of a second faster than the 5 shots that I fired from the Weaver position. So any recoil mitigation or advantage to recoil reduction that once was attributable to the Weaver stance, I think has largely been surpassed by the modified isosceles stance firing from that thumb's forward grip. But now let's compare that to the modified isosceles using the thumb over thumb grip and see how much difference, if any, we see using that. So I've marked the 5 shots fired from the modified isosceles position using the thumb over thumb grip with the blue stickers, and I hope these are still going to be easy enough for you to see. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is definitely the biggest group of all 3, but the thing that strikes me is the fact that I've got a spine shot, a heart shot, and 3 lung shots, so still relatively effective shots. And I fired this in the lowest elapsed time, which I did not expect to. These 5 shots were fired in a total time of 4.05 seconds. Now you recall the shots that I fired in the modified isosceles using the thumb's forward grip were 4.16 seconds. So even though this is a larger group, it was achieved in a full 1/10 of a second less time, and still I was able to put 5 effective shots on target. So if there was any recoil reduction that was afforded by the thumb's forward grip, it didn't translate into allowing me to put my shots on target more quickly. What it seems to have done was allow me to control that handgun a little bit better and fire a tighter group. Again, whether or not this is all really significant in a defensive scenario is up for debate. Now, one thing I will mention is I was using my 1911 PD to fire these shots. This has a scandium alloy frame, so it's a relatively lightweight 1911, and I was using full power 230 grain full metal jacket ammunition. So I was firing good stout ammunition and getting what would be a good recoil impulse from the 1911. And all 15 of those shots, actually all 18 when I add the ones that I fired singly, are good defensive hits. So I don't see a huge advantage one way or the other from stance to stance or grip to grip. If there is any at all, I would say the modified isosceles using the thumb's forward grip won this in terms of accuracy, but the modified isosceles using the old standard thumb over thumb grip won this in terms of speed to put all 5 shots on target from those 5-shot groups. So the next thing I wanted to determine was whether or not those results that I saw with the 1911 would remain consistent across different handgun platforms. So next up, I had my Smith & Wesson Model 19 carry comp, and I was firing full power 158 grain 357 Magnum ammunition. And again, I started out with the single shots from the holster to see how quickly I could get 1 shot fired from the Weaver stance, the modified isosceles thumbs forward, and the modified isosceles thumb over thumb grip with the Model 19 carry comp, and here's how that looked. And here are the 3 shots fired from those 3 different stances using 2 different grips. And I would say you don't get a whole lot more consistent than that in terms of accuracy. This was the shot fired from the Weaver stance. This was the shot fired from the modified Isosceles using the thumb's forward grip. And this is the shot fired from the modified Isosceles using the thumb over thumb grip. I don't think there's a significant advantage in terms of accuracy with any of those. When it comes to time, on the other hand, the Weaver stance once again had the greatest amount of time. That took 2.17 seconds for this shot to be fired on target. The modified Isosceles using the thumb's forward grip had a total elapsed time of 2.08 seconds. It came in second place this time in terms of time. And surprisingly, the thumb over thumb modified Isosceles came in at a time of 1.96 seconds. So this was the fastest shot using that old-fashioned, if you will, grip. And even so, the accuracy looked good and had the greatest time. Now again, when we consider these times, the entire elapsed time is just over 0.2 of a second. Whether or not that's significant is something for you to consider, but in terms of accuracy, to get that first shot on target, I'm just not seeing a whole lot of difference. So next, I went back into firing the 5 shots in a row, and this is the first place that I had a significant technical difficulty, and I was not able to get the recording firing the first 5 shots from the Weaver stance, but I'll go ahead and mark them on the target, and I did get the time, so I'll be able to tell you about it. You just won't be able to see it. And here are those 5 shots fired from the Weaver stance with the Model 19 carry comp. And folks, I got to tell you, this is a group I really wish you could have seen being fired because I'm pretty proud of it. Those are 5 shots, all in the heart, in a time of 5.88 seconds. So I'm very happy with that performance from the Model 19 carry comp. And some of you know that that Revolver and I got off to kind of a rocky start, but since it came back from being repaired, it is quickly becoming one of my favorite revolvers, and this type of accuracy is the reason why. The time was obviously greater than we were seeing with the 1911, not surprisingly, since I was shooting the double action revolver. Even so, the accuracy looks good, and even though I was shooting this from the Weaver stance, I don't think we could expect much better performance from any other kind of stance or grip. Even so, let's take a look now at how things looked from the modified Isosceles stance, and I did fire this with a thumbs forward grip, which I said is not really conducive to using with a double action revolver, but let's see how it went. So that time at least you did get to see it. That's 5 more shots that are all in the heart. And did I mention this is full power 158 grain 357 Magnum ammunition, and that revolver is that controllable from that distance of 5 yards, and I'm very happy with the performance that I'm seeing from it. But back to the stances and grips, these 5 shots were fired at an elapsed time of 5.96 seconds, or 8/100ths of a second slower than the initial 5 shots that I fired from the Weaver grip. I really don't think that 8/100ths of a second has anything to do with stance or anything else, although, as I said, that thumbs forward grip really feels a little bit awkward, so maybe that caused me to be a little bit slower in acquiring the target or something. But even so, I would call the accuracy and really even the times for both of those a dead heat. So last up, I'm going to try my modified Isosceles stance with the thumb over thumb traditional grip, and we'll see what the results of that look like. Well, folks, it's hard to complain when on a target like this, out of 18 shots, the worst one you fire is a good solid lung hit. These, once again, are marked with the blue stickers, and these shots were the shots that I fired using the modified Isosceles with the thumb over thumb grip, and 4 out of the 5 are very tight, once again, well centered. I've got 2 good heart hits there, and actually make that 2 hits on the heart, 1 on the aorta, and 2 good lung hits. But the thing that caught my attention this time around is that the elapsed time for these 5 shots was the fastest by over half a second. I fired these 5 shots in a time limit, or an elapsed time rather, of 5.33 seconds, so 0.55 seconds faster than I fired from the Weaver stance to begin with. And even so, I've still got good effective shot placement. And I think what I'm starting to see as I work my way through these exercises is, for me at least, the question about stances and grips and all that really is not making as much difference as just how I happen to shoot that time around. But I want to test that theory with one more handgun, so I repeated this drill, this time using my Steyr M9A2MF. And as you'll see, I had to switch to a different target. This is part of the difficulties I talked about that I was having earlier. But since I'm really testing the stances and grips against each other, I don't think going to a different target is going to make any significant difference. So for those single shot drills, this is the shot from the Weaver stance that I fired first. This is the shot from the modified Isosceles with the thumbs forward grip. And this is the shot with the modified Isosceles with the thumb over thumb grip. And in terms of accuracy, this one hit the aorta. This is a good solid lung shot. This one is just below the heart. And by the way, I know it's a lot harder to see the anatomical diagram on this particular target, which is why I'm pointing out where these are. But the final one from the thumb over thumb grip is just below the heart, headed straight toward the spine in this case. So when it comes to accuracy and effectiveness, I don't think we're seeing much of anything in terms of benefit for one over the other. When we look at the times that I achieved, the one shot with the Weaver stance, or from the Weaver stance, had a time of 2.18 seconds, 2.18 seconds. My shot with the modified Isosceles and the thumbs forward grip was the fastest of the three, with a time of 1.80 seconds, and I think that was the fastest shot on target of any of the different handguns and any of the different single shot drills at 1.8 seconds. And the one that I fired with the thumb over thumb from the modified Isosceles was 1.89 seconds, 1.89 seconds. So really, once again, with those 3 shots, I'm not seeing a significant advantage one way or the other from any stances or any grips. Now, let's take a look at how things went when I was firing the 5 consecutive shots, and I'll get those marked on the target, and we'll also take a look at the times. And here are those 5 shots fired from the Weaver position with the thumbs forward grip. And they are very nicely centered. I'm happy with that group. The time on that was 3.95 seconds, so I was able to fire them off fairly quickly. But now let's see how that compares to the modified Isosceles with the thumbs forward grip. And once again, I've marked those 5 shots fired from the modified Isosceles using the thumbs forward grip with the red stickers. And the group is slightly bigger than those that I fired from the Weaver stance, and I also was pulling a couple of those shots off to the left. But in terms of effectiveness, when I look at the anatomical diagram, again, these are heart shots, these are lung shots. I don't know that they're going to be tremendously less effective than those that I fired from the Weaver stance, or that the ones from the Weaver stance are going to be more effective in terms of stopping this individual if that becomes necessary. The time for these was a full 1/10 of a second faster. Again, I think that's more a reflection of having to move slightly more to assume the Weaver stance than to assume the modified Isosceles stance, and really 1/10 of a second, again, I think in the vast majority of circumstances is going to be inconsequential. So we're still tending to see that the results on target and the time have more to do with just me and my variations from stage to stage than it really has anything to do with stances and grips and whatever. But let's test that one final time with the Steyr M9A2 MF firing from the modified Isosceles using the old-fashioned thumb over thumb grip and see how that goes. And marked in blue, once again, are those shots from my modified Isosceles stance using the thumb over thumb grip. And this is easily the tightest group of the three this time around. And it's slightly off to the left. I think I was just a little off to the left as I was shooting these, but nice accuracy. And once again, this is the fastest time with an overall elapsed time of 3.82 seconds. So it bested the modified Isosceles with the thumb's forward grip by a couple of 100ths of a second. So not significantly faster, but definitely not significantly slower. So after all of this shooting and looking at the times and the accuracy, what are my thoughts in this video? So folks, after all this shooting and all the analysis, there are a couple of things that occur to me. First off, with regard to the Weaver stance, there is nothing that I'm seeing in terms of an advantage that would be worthwhile for me to transition from my modified Isosceles stance, particularly when I consider things like the modified Isosceles, for me, is a little bit quicker and a little bit more natural to assume, particularly in a sudden stressful situation. Also, as I said, it maximizes the benefit of body armor for any kind of incoming fire, reduces the chances of shots coming in through the arm or through the seam of a vest, and it's also a little bit more mobile for me. But how about the grip? What am I seeing with regard to that thumbs forward grip as opposed to the old-fashioned thumb over thumb grip? Let's discuss that a little bit. The first thing I'll mention is that other than when shooting revolvers, this is the first time I've done any shooting with the thumb over thumb grip in a long time. And even so, I wasn't seeing a tremendous reduction in accuracy, and there was at least once that the thumb over thumb grip was the fastest out of the three different stances and grips that I was using. And when I consider that, along with the fact that using this type of a grip simplifies my life because I don't have to have one grip for a revolver and then a different grip for a semi-auto, and I don't have to worry about the thumb's forward grip impairing or impeding the function of some controls on different handguns, I think I'm going to switch back to that thumb over thumb grip for my general shooting. It just makes sense for me, it simplifies my life, and I think if I go back to shooting that way all the time, any reduction that I've seen in accuracy or anything else in this video is probably going to be reduced just from practicing that type of shooting again. Now, as I make that statement about transitioning back to the thumb over thumb grip, I can almost hear a collective gasp coming from the firearms training community because anybody who's anybody will tell you that you should use the thumb's forward grip because it's a superior way to hold onto your handgun. But I'm just not seeing that for myself, which brings up another point. There is nobody on YouTube or anywhere else on the internet or anywhere else in the world for that matter who can tell you what's going to work best for you. What you need to do is go out and try these different stances and different grips for yourself and find out what works the best for you, and then practice that over and over and over again. And in the tradition of any other martial art, practice it to the point that you forget it, which means that using that particular technique becomes so ingrained that it's basically reflexive for you. You're not thinking about it when you come out to shoot. And that's part of mastering your firearm, which is something that I think should be foremost in the mind of defensive shooters. Don't worry so much about what's trendy. Don't worry so much about what this person or that person thinks is the cool way to go about something. Concern yourself with what's going to work best for you and mastering that technique for yourself. So those are my thoughts on this subject, folks. I'd like to hear yours. If you have any questions or comments about this video, as always, make sure you forward those to me. Remember, if you purchase anything from Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is And if you use that discount code, it's good for 5% off anything you purchase from Optics Planet. Also, remember the new discount code from Hot Munitions. If you go to Hot Munitions, you can use my discount code there, which is HRFUNK10, and that'll save you 10% off your purchase from Hot Munitions. See you next time, folks. Until then, regardless of what stance or what grip you decide to use, good shooting. Bye-bye.